So you know that time when you figure out something doesn't work and then you have to go back to the beginning? That's this story for me, except multiply the times I've had to do that by 4. So, this is the first. This is going to be the new author's note for the first chapter. And if you didn't know, the chapters that I post on FictionPress are actually 3 chapters combined. So this is just going to be for the first of those 3 chapters, excluding the intro. The intro was basically just, I don't really know why I threw it in there. Honestly, it's ruining the views, but who cares? I don't care. But pretty much, this started as a single chapter, very, very long, like 50,000 word story, right? No chapters, just one continuous strain. It was hard to read. So I started over, breaking it up into chapters, writing it over, adding a couple new characters, new character development, getting rid of some characters that didn't work. I finished the second revision, or the first revision. Didn't like it. Started over again. Added some new characters. Wrote some scenes out of order, which ultimately probably made it worse in the long run, but I got about 3/4 of the way through, was unhappy with it. Started again. This time, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted done and a very clear idea of how I wanted it to end. And then I got a better idea, but I was already halfway through. Scrapping that one. 4th revision. This one. Alright, we're good, right? So, just some notes on the intro. Hang on. Just some notes on the intro's chapter. And some notes on certain events that happened. The thing about the clone actually came up in the 2nd revision, the 3rd version of this story. And it didn't work there because it was very, very late in the story that I thought of it, and I put it in. Sadly, it didn't work. But I brought it back for the 3rd revision, the 4th version of this. And it worked, but again, it came in too late to where I could properly develop her. Her being the clone, Amber. The only one that I'm giving a remotely normal name to, by the way. Probably. But anyway. Now for this one, I decided to just go ahead and get this. Honestly, this first chapter was definitely the hardest to write for me. Because when you have those scenes where you either come across a clone or an imposter of your main character, it's very, very, very difficult to come to the conclusion of how are we going to solve this, you know? My solution was always throughout every revision was to blame the actual main character, Canary. Kana, as I'm going to call her, for everything that this clone is doing. Now, that part is the hardest to write out of this entire scenario. I probably shouldn't have written it this way in terms of easiness to write, because, and this is where this plot development really doesn't work at the very beginning, is because you don't have time to develop her character. You don't have time to develop Kana's character. You don't have time to explain why this would actually work in the story. You would just have to take it on faith, and that's something that I honestly don't like having my readers do. But for everything that I wanted to do, I found this to be the simplest and easiest way to understand how everything is going to be laid out. So that's kind of why I did it, and you'll understand a bit more as I develop the characters more, because this, in many ways, this chapter is very much the stepping stone for everything that happens. That's why it really needed to go in the beginning, but the way I decided to go about the event was more meant for more of a middle section. So if I could find a happy balance in maybe a 5th revision, which is not going to happen anytime soon, because I am actually quite happy with how this version is turning out. That would act, if I could find a happy balance, that would work great. For example, if I just went about it some other way, I don't know what yet, I would have to think about it more. But if I can go about it some other way, then I would be happy. But in terms of the names, well, actually, first, I'll fix it after this video, but as of right now, I realized I forgot to put an author's note at the end of the first chapter, or the first 3 chapters. So, on the names, it's Greek, literally. I wanted to have every single name in this story be unique, in that not many people have it. I want all my characters to be like that, because that's just how I am. Generic names, I don't like reading about. A name means everything to me. A name can symbolize everything that the character stands for, everything that happens to them in one word. And that's why if this is just general writing advice, if you're doing a story, get an original name. Go on Google Translate. Do it in another language. Some of those actually sound pretty normal. Like Sora. Sora is a good name. Sora is a great name. And it means sky in Japanese. And honestly, I use that meaning to my advantage because I have his companions be Yami and Kairi, darkness and light. The sky has day and night, or light and darkness. You use the names. That's the purpose of them. You don't name someone Nick. That's boring. That's boring character names. And for anyone named Nick, that doesn't mean you're boring. I'm saying in terms of entertaining characters, you do not want to read about a Nick. You want to read about someone with a very unique name. For example, or even a more common or more uncommon name, like Amber. I know one Amber out of 3,000 kids at my school. One. And yet I can name 5 Nicks off the top of my head. Choose an uncommon name. It's for the best. Sorry, rant. So the names, they're Greek. That's where I got this name from, or got their names from. The hybrids' names are all named after an animal. For example, Linkus, wait, did I introduce him in this chapter? No, I didn't. Sorry about that. For next time. Canary. It's Greek for canary. Now, originally, in some of the earlier revisions, she was a canary. But for the theming, okay, actually, I have an explanation in that her mother named her that because the Greek name for eagle, if I could bring it up, hang on, is Aetos, or actually, Atos. Does that sound feminine to you? No. So sometimes you will have to bend the rules of your own naming thing slightly. I decided to make it a bird at least. I decided to keep it a bird name, Canary. Canary, because if you think about it, that sounds a lot more feminine. I find that a lot of girls' names end in vowels. Veronica, Emily, though Y kind of isn't a vowel, but I count it as a vowel. Or at least a vowel sounds like Hannah, or some other name. I don't know. I want to think of one more. My mother's name, Lori. I.e., you know. They most of the time end with vowels. Now, of course, there are exceptions. For example, the name Dawn. That doesn't end with a vowel sound, but it also has this prominent vowel sound within it. Dawnin. A-W, you know? So they either have prominent vowel sound, much more so than most guy names, or they have vowel sounds at the end. I could say the same for males, but definitely not as much. So anyway, so Canary, in my book, sounds a lot more feminine, and of course I feminize it further by her nickname being Kana, Kana, which is the first 4 letters of her actual name. I did this because I like Kana Alberona from Fairy Tail, and I wanted to, like, pay tribute to her. But anyway, that's just my reasoning. So, yeah, Jericho. That, hey, there's a guy name, technically. Guy name that ends with a good vowel sound. E. But, of course, he is, in retrospect, out of the 4 main characters, he is probably more effeminate in some ways than others. In that he is a lot gentler than... Actually, he's gentler than all 3 of the other protagonists. So I tried to... So it's not... Like I said, I'm using his name. Jericho. It's more feminine sounding in that it ends on a very easy sound to make. I'm going off so many tangents, but anyway, he is named after a falcon or a hawk. They're actually the same word. For example, hawk, Jericho. Falcon. Get rid of that hawk. Jericho. Yeah, see? They're the same word. Yeah, same word. Except I kind of spelled it wrong because there's like that little I gotta see which way I'm doing. Dash above the A. But in the actual spelling, but not in my spelling. And that's simply because I didn't copy paste his name for whatever reason. And honestly, I've written too many chapters to go back and change it at this point. But yeah, it's Jericho. That is, he is named after a falcon, and of course they are both birds. He is actually a hawk. No, he is a gyrfalcon, which I believe is the largest bird largest species of hawk, I think. Could be wrong. Leanna, I don't know how to say her name. What is it? It's Greek for lioness.
Lena.
Okay. Her name is Lena, which is really weird, but I just always said Lania, and I don't really know why. It's just the easiest to say with those general letters. I've actually read a little bit of ADD in here, but I've actually read that the human brain does not generally comprehend every single letter in a word. They generally look at the first and the last and all the letters in between in general order. They always see the first, they always see the last, but the middle ones they see in a general order. You can write a sentence with the first and the last letters correct in every word, but then the middle letters be jumbled all together, and you would most likely be able to read it pretty well. Sorry, another tangent. So, yeah, that's how I saw it. Lania, whatever. Call it Liana. I don't care. And that's actually kind of how it's spelled. It's actually kind of Liana. I don't know. It's L-E with a little thing, A-I-N-A. So yeah, that's her name. The commander character. I had a name for her a long time ago, and I totally forget it now. I'm a really good writer, guys. I can remember every single character's names ever. I remember the important characters, I promise. But anyway, that's about the names. Whether, in terms of where this is of what themes this story is gonna focus on, the themes I'm gonna go for, they're gonna be separate for each of the 4 main characters. I'll start with the quote-unquote least important until the most important, which is obviously Canary, who is the main character. Like the main character, the one that's actually going to be relevant in the sequels, or the sequel singular. So Amber, she is going to be one of the 4 main protagonists. I think that was clear. I think. If not, then I've done something horribly wrong. But yeah, she is going to become one of the main protagonists. How? You don't know. You may have an idea, but you don't know for sure. But her main thing is that she, throughout the entire story, for the most part, is going to have difficulties knowing what to do and what is morally the right choice. Because she has her original, who is eventually going to be kicked out for being too blood hungry, telling her one thing, and then Cherokee, the very somewhat pacifist, gentler, like do-gooder type, who is saying killing should only be done when necessary, and that necessity is very rare, he says, which in all actuality is a very good way to live by if you're in an exaggerated world with guns everywhere. But anyway, so her whole thing is that she's very, throughout the entire thing, and this is gonna pop up in the next chapter, or the next 2 chapters, whatever. She's very conflicted in that she doesn't always know what to do, and her main revelation is that it doesn't matter what I do so long as it's my choice. Because throughout her whole life, from working with the state, she has been told what to do. As you'll see later, she has a tendency to ask what to do. She learns to not necessarily make good decisions, but to make her own in a vanilla sense, if you want to put it that lightly. So yeah, that's her kind of dilemma. That's what I want to focus on for her. The next one, who you don't know about yet, I'm gonna save for next time. The Cherokee is that his main thing is he's trying to be a good leader. He's trying to teach his people something, because for all intents and purposes, he is the leader of their people. Liana is kind of a dog to the commander, and commander is not one of them. He is, for all intents and purposes, their leader. He is the oldest and, for the most part, the wisest. And he also maintains the best, or the most, not understandable, but the most accepted moral boundaries. His whole thing is his struggle to not only maintain an air of leadership, but he learns to be not tactical, because he is tactical. He grew up in a war, but he learns to be much more. He learns to take much more initiative in his leadership role. How about that? Because I will say throughout the stories that characters see him as extremely laid back. Now, you may see bursts of initiative, especially in, I think, chapter 16 or chapter 6 for you guys. But he, for all intents and purposes, is a passive person, and he learns to be an active person in a sense. So that's his thing. And also a sub kind of thing for him is that he also learns the correct ways, or the correct methods of righting a wrong, if that makes sense, or at least, I don't want to sound like a murderer, but when killing can be used effectively for the greater good, let's say. So, and I'll talk about that more as I write it and as I make more of these things. And then Canary, that I'm also going to skip on, because that honestly is not for right now. That's for the end, because that would ruin the whole story. I mean, the others you might say ruin the whole story, and I'll put up an annotation if you don't want to know. But yeah, that's for the end. All right. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe, like, comment, if not criticisms, I was welcome. I'll see you. Actually, first, this turned out way longer than I thought. I thought it was gonna be like 4 minutes, but I talk a lot. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know. Keep them brief or keep them this length if you want to hear the full extent of my behind the scenes. So again, thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe, like, comment, if not criticisms, I was welcome, and I will see you in the next chapter. Bye bye.